Ambassador Tom Chen adjusted his dark blue uniform as he stood before the massive crystal doors of the Zephyrian throne room. The walls around him stretched up so high that the ceiling disappeared into shadows. Strange blue light pulsed through the crystal walls like a heartbeat. Tom had seen many alien worlds during his 10 years as Earth's diplomatic representative, but nothing quite like this. "Remember," said Maria Santos, his assistant, checking her tablet one more time, "Princess Vera is young, but she holds real power here. The Zephyrian Empire controls 12 star systems. If we can get them to sign the trade agreement, Earth's colonies will have protection for the next 50 years. Tom nodded. He had memorized every detail of the proposal. Earth needed allies. The galaxy was becoming more dangerous each year, with new threats emerging from unexplored regions. The Zephyrian military was known throughout the galaxy as one of the strongest forces. "Sir," said Captain Ross, the military attaché, "intelligence reports suggest the princess can be difficult. She has rejected proposals from 3 other species in the past month." "We will be respectful but firm," Tom replied. "Earth has much to offer. Our scientists have made discoveries that even advanced civilizations find valuable." The crystal doors began to open with a sound like singing wind. The throne room beyond took Tom's breath away. The space was enormous, filled with floating platforms of different heights. Hundreds of Zephyrians stood on these platforms, their tall, elegant forms draped in flowing robes that changed color like oil on water. They had elongated limbs and large eyes that seemed to hold starlight. At the center of the room, on the highest platform, sat Princess Vera on a throne made of living crystal that pulsed with inner light. She appeared young by any standard, but Tom knew that Zephyrian royalty matured quickly and held adult responsibilities early. Her silver hair flowed like liquid metal, and her eyes were the deep purple of distant nebulae. Tom and his delegation walked forward along a path of light that appeared under their feet. The sound of their footsteps echoed in the vast space. Hundreds of alien eyes watched them approach. Tom felt the weight of their gaze but kept his expression calm and professional. When they reached the base of the princess's platform, Tom bowed in the traditional Zephyrian manner, touching his forehead with both hands. His delegation followed his example. "Your Highness," Tom said, his voice carrying clearly in the crystalline space. "I am Ambassador Tom Chen, representing the United Earth government. We come seeking friendship and mutual benefit between our peoples." Princess Vera leaned back in her throne, studying the humans with what seemed like mild amusement. When she spoke, her voice had a musical quality that made even harsh words sound beautiful. "Humans," she said, the word dripping with casual dismissal. "Yes, I have heard of your species. You have only recently discovered faster-than-light travel, correct? A mere 200 years ago, you were still fighting wars with chemical explosives." "That is correct, Your Highness," Tom replied evenly. "But in those 2 centuries, humanity has made remarkable progress. We have established colonies on 47 worlds and made significant contributions to galactic science and culture." The princess laughed, a sound like silver bells that somehow felt cutting. Several members of her court joined in the laughter, creating a harmony that filled the throne room. "Contributions?" Princess Vera said, her eyes sparkling with what Tom was beginning to recognize as condescension rather than mirth. What could a species that discovered fire only moments ago possibly contribute to civilizations that have mastered the stars for millennia? Tom felt Maria shift uncomfortably beside him, but he maintained his diplomatic composure. "Human scientists have developed new approaches to quantum mechanics that have revolutionized faster-than-light communication. Our doctors have found cures for diseases that have plagued the galaxy for centuries. Our artists and philosophers have brought fresh perspectives to ancient questions." "Ah, yes," the princess said, waving one graceful hand dismissively. "I have heard of your quantum breakthrough. Tell me, Ambassador, do you truly believe that stumbling upon a solution through primitive trial and error constitutes a meaningful scientific achievement?" The throne room fell silent except for the gentle humming of the crystal walls. Tom could feel the attention of hundreds of beings focused on this exchange. He chose his words carefully. "Your Highness, every species brings unique strengths to the galactic community. Humanity's rapid development and fresh perspective have value precisely because they come from a different approach to understanding the universe." Princess Vera stood from her throne, her movement fluid and graceful. She descended partway down the crystal steps toward Tom, close enough that he could see the patterns of light shifting in her large eyes. "Different?" she said, her voice taking on a sharper edge. Or simply primitive? Tell me, Ambassador, what makes you think that luck and accident deserve the same respect as millennia of careful advancement? Tom felt the insult but kept his expression neutral. With respect, Your Highness, humanity's achievements represent more than luck. They demonstrate adaptability, creativity, and determination that has allowed us to overcome significant challenges. Determination, the princess repeated, as if tasting the word. Yes, I suppose even animals show determination when they are hungry or threatened. A ripple of laughter ran through the court. Tom's jaw tightened slightly, but he maintained his diplomatic stance. Your Highness, he said carefully, I believe there may be some misunderstanding about human capabilities and achievements. If I could present our formal proposal, it might clarify the mutual benefits of an alliance between our peoples. Princess Vera returned to her throne, settling back into the crystal seat with fluid grace. By all means, Ambassador, present your proposal. I am curious to see what bargains a species of clever animals might offer to their betters. The casual cruelty of the words hit Tom like a physical blow. Around the throne room, he could see alien faces watching with expressions ranging from amusement to anticipation. This was entertainment for them. Tom opened his presentation folder and activated the holographic display system. Images of Earth's colonies, scientific achievements, and cultural contributions filled the air above them. He began to speak about trade opportunities, joint research projects, and mutual defense agreements. But Princess Vera was not listening. Instead, she was examining her fingernails, which seemed to be made of the same flowing crystal as her throne. When Tom paused to show a particularly impressive holographic display of a human-designed space station, she looked up with exaggerated attention. Oh, how fascinating, she said in a tone that suggested the opposite. And you built this enormous structure in how long? 5 years? How charmingly ambitious. The Zephyrian Empire completed similar projects in a matter of weeks, but of course, we had to account for actual engineering principles rather than enthusiastic guessing. More laughter from the court. Tom continued his presentation, but he could feel the atmosphere growing more hostile with each slide. Princess Vera made dismissive comments about every human achievement he showed, comparing them unfavorably to Zephyrian accomplishments or attributing them to luck rather than skill. When Tom reached the section about human contributions to galactic culture, Princess Vera actually yawned. Music, poetry, philosophy, she said, waving her hand as if shooing away an insect. Yes, I am sure these diversions are amusing to species with limited intellectual capacity. But surely you understand that the Zephyrian Empire has produced artistic and philosophical works that transcend anything your people could comprehend. Tom felt his diplomatic training warring with his growing anger. He had spent months preparing this presentation, working with Earth's best minds to create proposals that would benefit both civilizations. To see it dismissed so casually was deeply frustrating. Your Highness, he said, his voice still controlled but with an edge that had not been there before. Human art and philosophy have been appreciated by many galactic civilizations. Our emotional depth and creative approaches have been recognized as valuable contributions to universal culture, Princess. Vera's eyes lit up with what seemed like genuine delight at having found a new angle of attack. Emotional depth, she exclaimed, clapping her hands together. Oh, this is perfect. Yes, let us discuss human emotions. Tell me, Ambassador, how exactly do you expect to conduct serious diplomacy when your species is ruled by chemical reactions in your primitive brains? She stood again, beginning to pace on her platform like a teacher addressing slow students. Anger, fear, love, jealousy, she continued, her voice taking on a lecturing tone. These emotional storms that drive human behavior. How can civilized species trust agreements made by beings who might change their minds based on what they had for breakfast? The court was enjoying this thoroughly now. Tom could hear whispered comments and soft laughter throughout the vast room. His delegation stood in tense silence behind him, waiting to see how he would respond. Emotions are not weaknesses, Your Highness, Tom said, his diplomatic mask beginning to slip. They drive innovation, sacrifice, and moral courage. They allow humans to make decisions that pure logic might reject but that serve the greater good. The greater good, Princess Vera repeated mockingly. Yes, I am sure your emotions tell you many pleasant stories about sacrifice and moral courage. But in the real universe, decisions must be made based on logic, facts, and careful calculation. not on the chemical whims of organic neural networks. She paused dramatically, looking down at Tom with an expression of theatrical pity. This is why your proposal is so amusing, Ambassador. You stand there asking the Zephyrian Empire to treat Earth as an equal partner, when anyone can see that humans are simply not equipped for real responsibility. Your emotions make you unpredictable. Your brief existence makes you short-sighted. Your primitive technology makes you dependent. Tom's hands tightened around his presentation folder, but he kept his voice steady. Your Highness, if you would examine the details of our proposal, rather than making assumptions about human capabilities. Assumptions? Princess Vera interrupted, her voice rising with mock surprise. Ambassador, I am not making assumptions. I am stating observable facts. Humans are an immature species that has stumbled into galactic society through a combination of luck and stubborn persistence. That is not an insult. It is simply reality. She gestured grandly to encompass her entire court. The civilizations represented here have spent thousands of years perfecting their understanding of science, philosophy, and governance. We have moved beyond the primitive emotional reactions that still control human behavior. We make decisions based on logic and long-term planning, not on momentary feelings or popular sentiment. Tom felt something cold settle in his chest. This was not going to be a negotiation. This was not even going to be a respectful rejection. This was a public humiliation designed to entertain the Zephyrian court at humanity's expense. Perhaps, Princess Vera continued, now fully in her element, Earth would be better served by accepting a more appropriate role in the galactic community. We could offer protection to your colonies in exchange for mining rights and raw materials. Your people could learn proper civilization under Zephyrian guidance. Think of it as a mentorship program for developing species. The throne room fell silent as the full implication of her words sank in. She was offering Earth subjugation dressed up as partnership. Tom's diplomatic training told him to probe for compromise, to find some middle ground that might salvage the situation. But something deeper in him rebelled against the casual arrogance and contempt he had witnessed. Princess Vera had not just rejected Earth's proposal. She had rejected the fundamental worth and dignity of humanity itself. Your Highness, Tom said slowly, am I to understand that the Zephyrian Empire's position is that humans are inherently inferior and should accept a subordinate role in galactic affairs? Princess Vera smiled, apparently pleased that he was finally understanding. Now you are beginning to grasp the situation, Ambassador. Yes, that is exactly our position. Earth should be grateful for the opportunity to serve under proper guidance, rather than pretending to capabilities it clearly lacks. Tom looked at her for a long moment. Around the throne room, hundreds of alien faces watched with expressions of amusement and anticipation. They were waiting for his response, expecting either angry protests or defeated acceptance. Tom closed his presentation folder with a soft snap that seemed to echo in the vast space. He looked directly at Princess Vera, his expression calm but unreadable. Then, without a word, he turned around and began walking toward the exit. The throne room erupted in surprised murmurs. Princess Vera's voice cut through the noise, sharp with confusion and rising anger. Ambassador, where are you going? We are not finished with this discussion. Tom did not turn around. He continued walking at the same steady pace, his delegation following behind him in stunned silence. Their footsteps on the crystal floor were the only sound as hundreds of beings watched in disbelief. Ambassador Chen, Princess Vera called again, her voice now carrying a note of command. I am speaking to you. Return here immediately. Tom reached the great crystal doors without looking back. As they began to open, Princess Vera's voice rose to a near shout. How dare you turn your back on the princess of the Zephyrian Empire? This is an insult that will not be forgotten. The doors closed behind the human delegation with a sound like distant thunder. Tom Chen had left without saying a single word of protest, argument, or anger. He had simply walked away. In the throne room, Princess Vera stood on her platform staring at the closed doors with an expression of shock and growing rage. Never in her life had anyone simply walked away from her. Never had anyone responded to her words with such complete dismissal. The court whispered among themselves, unsure how to interpret what they had just witnessed. Some laughed nervously, suggesting that the humans were simply too primitive to understand proper protocol. Others looked thoughtful, wondering if there was more to the human response than met the eye. Princess Vera remained standing, her hands clenched at her sides, staring at the doors through which Earth's ambassador had disappeared without a word. 3 days after Ambassador Tom Chen left the Zephyrian throne room, Princess Vera found herself unable to concentrate on her usual duties. She sat in her private chambers, a smaller but equally beautiful crystal room overlooking the capital city of Zenthara. The view showed millions of lights spread across the landscape like fallen stars, but she barely noticed the beauty. Her mind kept returning to the moment when the human ambassador had simply turned and walked away. No angry words, no threats, no desperate pleas for reconsideration, just silence and departure. "Your Highness," said Counselor Thane, her chief advisor, entering the chamber with careful steps. He was an older Zephyrian with silver markings on his face that indicated his high rank and long service. "The human delegation has left our system entirely. They departed this morning without requesting any further meetings." Princess Vera turned from the window, her expression irritated. "Good. Let them return to their primitive world and report their failure. Perhaps Earth will send someone with better manners next time." Counselor Thane's expression remained neutral, but Princess Vera noticed he did not immediately agree with her assessment. This was unusual. Thane typically supported her decisions without question. "Is there something you wish to say, Counselor?" she asked, her voice carrying a warning edge. "Only that the other galactic powers have been watching these negotiations with great interest," Thane replied carefully. "Earth has been forming alliances with several smaller civilizations. Their departure from our territory has been noted by our intelligence network." Princess Vera waved dismissively. "Let them form alliances with other primitive species. The Zephyrian Empire has no need of such partnerships." But even as she spoke the words, something about the human ambassador's calm silence continued to bother her. She had expected anger, argument, or submission. Instead, she had received something she did not understand, and that uncertainty gnawed at her thoughts. 2 weeks later, the first reports began arriving that would change everything. Princess Vera was reviewing trade agreements in her official office when Counselor Thane burst through the doors with unprecedented urgency. His usually perfect composure was shattered, and his silver face markings seemed to pulse with stress. "Your Highness," he said, breathing heavily, "we have received emergency communications from the outer territories. The hegemony has begun attacking our border systems." Princess Vera felt her blood turn cold. The hegemony was a machine intelligence that had emerged from the galactic core 5 years earlier. They were known for their ruthless efficiency and advanced technology that adapted to enemy tactics within hours. Several civilizations had already fallen to their relentless expansion. "Which systems?" she asked, standing quickly. "Kepler 7, New Corinth, and the mining stations around Vega Prime," Thane replied, his voice tight with worry. "Our forces are engaging them now, but early reports suggest heavy casualties." Princess Vera moved to the large holographic display that dominated one wall of her office. The three-dimensional map of Zephyrian territory flickered to life, showing the locations of the attacks as pulsing red dots. "What are our military commanders reporting?" she asked. Thane activated his communication device, and the gravelly voice of General Crix filled the room. The general was a veteran of dozens of conflicts and had never sounded uncertain before today. "Your Highness," came his voice through the speaker, "the hegemony forces are unlike anything we have encountered. They adapt to our tactics faster than we can modify them. When we use energy weapons, they develop shields. When we use kinetic projectiles, they create countermeasures. It is as if they learn from every attack within minutes." Princess Vera studied the tactical displays that Thane was projecting. Zephyrian forces, despite their advanced technology and superior numbers, were being systematically defeated at every engagement. "What about our quantum disruptors?" she asked. "The hegemony should not be able to adapt to weapons that operate outside normal spacetime." "They adapted to those within the first hour of contact," General Crix replied grimly. "Your Highness, I have been fighting wars for 3 centuries. I have never seen anything like this. The machines seem to predict our strategies before we implement them." Over the following days, the situation grew worse. 3 more Zephyrian systems fell to hegemony forces. Refugee ships began arriving at the capital, carrying survivors who spoke of battles where Zephyrian technology seemed useless against an enemy that countered every move. Princess Vera found herself spending 18 hours a day in strategy meetings, reviewing battle reports that all told the same story. The Zephyrian military, despite being one of the most advanced in the galaxy, was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that learned faster than they could adapt. It was during one of these late-night briefings that Counselor Thane mentioned something that caught her attention. "Your Highness," he said, reviewing intelligence reports on his tablet. "Our monitoring stations have detected hegemony attacks on human colonies as well. However, the results appear to be different." Princess Vera looked up from her own reports. "Different how?" "The human forces are successfully repelling the attacks," Thane said, his voice carrying a note of surprise. "Not only that, but they seem to be achieving victories against the same hegemony units that defeated our superior forces." Princess Vera felt a surge of disbelief. "That is impossible. Human technology is centuries behind ours. If we cannot defeat the hegemony, how could they?" Thane activated the holographic display, showing tactical recordings from human colonies under attack. Princess Vera watched in growing amazement as human forces, using technology she had dismissed as primitive, managed to confuse and defeat hegemony machines. "How are they doing this?" she asked. "Our analysts are still studying the recordings," Thane replied. "But preliminary observations suggest that human commanders are making decisions that do not follow logical patterns. They sacrifice advantageous positions for no apparent reason. They ignore superior tactical positions to protect smaller units. They make choices that seem to defy military logic." Princess Vera studied the recordings more closely. She watched human commanders order retreats when they were winning, launch desperate attacks against superior forces, and constantly change tactics in ways that seemed random. "This makes no sense," she muttered. "They are fighting like—" She stopped as a memory surfaced. Her own words from 2 weeks earlier echoed in her mind. How can civilized species trust agreements made by beings who might change their minds based on what they had for breakfast? "Your Highness?" Thane asked, noticing her sudden silence. "They are fighting with emotions," Princess Vera said slowly. "The humans are making decisions based on emotions rather than logic." "Yes," Thane agreed. "Our analysts believe this is why they are failing to achieve maximum efficiency. However, they are still somehow achieving victory." Princess Vera continued watching the recordings. She saw human soldiers risking their lives to save wounded comrades even when military logic would dictate abandoning them. She watched commanders making split-second decisions based on intuition rather than calculated probability. She observed tactics that changed constantly, driven by what appeared to be feelings rather than strategy. And somehow, impossibly, it was working. The machines cannot predict emotional decisions, she realized aloud. They can calculate logical responses, but they cannot anticipate choices made from love, anger, or desperation. The implications hit her like a physical blow. Everything she had said about human emotions being a weakness was wrong. In this war, those same emotions were proving to be humanity's greatest strength. "Your Highness," General Crix's voice came through the communication system. "I hate to interrupt, but we have received word that the hegemony is massing forces for an attack on our home system. They will be here within 48 hours. Princess Vera felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. Her empire, built over millennia of careful advancement, faced extinction. Her people looked to her for protection she might not be able to provide. "What about our allies?" she asked. "The consortium of worlds, the Crystal Empire?" "They are dealing with their own hegemony attacks," Thane replied. "We are alone in this." Princess Vera stood in her office, surrounded by the greatest minds of her civilization, and for the first time in her life she felt truly helpless. Everything the Zephyrian Empire had, built through logic and careful planning, was crumbling before an enemy that learned too fast to defeat with conventional thinking. Then, she remembered Ambassador Tom Chen's calm face as he closed his presentation folder and walked away. Without a word, "Counselor Thane," she said quietly, "send a message to Earth. Request an immediate meeting with Ambassador Chen." Thane looked surprised. "Your Highness, after what happened during their visit, I doubt they will respond positively to—" "Send the message," Princess Vera interrupted. "Tell them that Princess Vera of the Zephyrian Empire formally requests their assistance against the hegemony threat." "But, Your Highness," Thane protested gently, "you declared them a primitive species unsuited for real responsibility. How can we ask for help from people we publicly dismissed?" Princess Vera was quiet for a long moment, staring at the tactical displays that showed hegemony forces advancing toward everything she held dear. "Because," she said finally. "I am beginning to understand that I was wrong." The response from Earth came 6 hours later. It was brief and direct, delivered in Ambassador Chen's own voice. "Princess Vera, Earth acknowledges your request for assistance. We will provide what help we can against the hegemony threat. However, any future diplomatic relations will require a fundamental change in how the Zephyrian Empire views humanity and other developing civilizations." "Princess." Vera listened to the message 3 times before. Responding, "Agreed," she sent back. "We accept your conditions." Within 12 hours, human ships began arriving in Zephyrian space. They were smaller and less advanced than Zephyrian vessels, but they moved with a purpose that spoke of experience fighting the hegemony. Princess Vera watched from her palace as the first human fleet took positions around the capital world. She had spent 2 weeks replaying Ambassador Chen's silent departure in her mind, trying to understand what it meant. Now, as human forces prepared to defend her people despite the insults she had delivered, she was beginning to comprehend the lesson he had been trying to teach her. The human ambassador had not walked away because he was too primitive to understand her superiority. He had walked away because he understood something she did not. That dignity did not require argument, that worth did not need defense, and that sometimes the most powerful response to cruelty was simply to refuse to participate in it. As hegemony ships appeared at the edge of the system, Princess Vera realized that Tom Chen's silence had been the loudest statement anyone had ever made in her throne room. By refusing to fight for respect he knew humans deserved, he had demonstrated a strength that went deeper than technology or military might. The battle was about to begin, and Princess Vera found herself hoping that she would have the chance to apologize to the man whose quiet dignity had taught her more about true civilization than centuries of Zephyrian philosophy. "Admiral Sarah." Kim's voice came through the communication system from the human flagship. "All units prepare for engagement. Remember, stay unpredictable. Trust your instincts. Fight for each other." Princess Vera smiled despite the approaching danger. For the first time in weeks, she felt hope. The humans were about to show her empire what real strength looked like, and she finally understood why Ambassador Tom Chen had been able to walk away without saying a word. Some truths, she realized, were too powerful to need explanation.